That's good. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us this afternoon. Today is our August 18th special education webinar. We've got 3 topics for you this afternoon. I'm gonna open up with just some reminders on dates about special education funding. Stephanie Wolf is here to share information with you around our special education performance diagnostic, and some of her team is on as well. And then Emily Groomer is going to wrap us up today with new early childhood special education resources. So we'll go ahead and get started. Just a reminder that you can ask questions in the Q&A, and I thank you for the hearts and the thumbs up that have been reactions so far. The chat, however, doesn't work, and if you raise your hand, we don't know who's raising their hand. But when you put questions in the Q&A, it really helps our team kind of follow up with you all, provide maybe some additional clarification and guidance. And sometimes, depending on who's on the call, we may be able to answer some of those questions live or answer those questions through response to the Q&A. So I think Cole's going to monitor a little bit of that for us today. So thank you, Cole. So as far as special education funding, our August 14th date has passed, and that was the date that for an early upload, hoping to get as much of the information from LEAs about the special education tiers and groups in advance. But please know that August 14th upload does not replace the work that you need to do as a district in the TSDS platform. So August 8th is going to be a due date for half of your special education students to have their information within the system. December 3rd will be the remaining 50%. Doesn't mean that you can't go over 50% by October. If you have more than 50% in October, that's wonderful. And then whatever remaining percent will be due December 8th. So the 2 SPED funding due dates that are coming up soon is October 8th and December 3rd. So that was the only reminders that we had today. Nothing else new has been posted within SPED funding on the Texas SPED support site, and there hasn't been any updates to the FAQs, but a lot of information is on the Texas SPED support for you. So, all right, well, that is it for SPED funding updates. So Stephanie, I'm going to pass it over to you.
Perfect. Let me share screen here. All right, Anna, are you good? Can you see my screen?
I can now. It's in the non-presentation mode, so I didn't know if you wanted to leave it there or
there we go.
The slide deck.
Thanks. Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to use some time this afternoon to go over a to the administrator address TAA letter that went out last week regarding the special education performance diagnostic. And so my name is Stephanie Wolf. I'm the Division Director of Continuous Improvement in Academic and Behavioral Supports in the Office of Special Populations and Student Supports. These are my esteemed colleagues who were actually at Region 10 conducting training on the SPD this morning, and most of them are en route back home this afternoon. So you might see some folks attending off camera, probably just here to make sure I share everything correctly. So Cole, Deanna, feel free to jump off mute if there's anything to add, and then Cole will be monitoring our Q&A section and addressing any questions that come through this afternoon. So our special education performance diagnostic is a framework that helps districts understand how healthy their special education system is. This framework is organized around essential actions, and key practices that define what a district should do to best serve students with disabilities in their schools. Throughout this presentation, you will see the use of school systems used, and that is referring to both independent school districts and charter schools when you see the use of school systems. So I'm going to play this short video, just give you an introduction to the SPD.
The Special Education Performance Diagnostic, also known as the SPD, is a research-informed, data-driven process designed to evaluate the overall health of a district's special education system. Developed in partnership with special education directors and school leaders from across the state, the SPD organizes essential actions and key practices into a framework consisting of 7 levers that together define what a district should do to ensure that students with disabilities are effectively served in schools. District leaders engage with the SPD through a secure application which streamlines the process of reviewing data and completing key practice self-assessments to prioritize areas for strategic planning and continuous improvement. The SPD moves districts from data to decisions and builds stronger special education systems to promote positive outcomes for students with disabilities.
All right, so we're going to just kind of walk through the to the administrator addressed letter that was sent on August 6th. I think that was last week. It might have been the week before. It's hard to keep up, but that went out on August 6th. You are able to find that by searching the website and looking at those to the administrator addressed link on the TEA website if you did not get a copy of that. An overview of really what went out in that letter starts with just an introduction to the SPD. Like we said, it is a framework to understand the overall health of your special education system. If you are familiar with the effective schools framework or effective districts framework, you're going to notice a lot of the same language and layout that is used in those frameworks as well, as far as it being levers, essential actions, and key practices that really define what districts should do to serve students effectively, students with disabilities effectively in schools. I do want to note that this framework was made in partnership with school leaders. We definitely believe within the agency in designing with and not for. So our ESC partners and our school district partners and even charter schools were able to be part of those stakeholder groups that reviewed and gave feedback as we worked to refine the special education performance diagnostic. Once it is fully implemented, the SPD will support school systems in using data to inform decisions and improving outcomes for students with disabilities. When it comes to the special education self-assessment, prior to this past school year, to the 25-26 school year, all school systems completed their annual special education self-assessment in Ascend via the TIL application. This self-assessment was part of the requirements from our differentiated monitoring and support here at the agency. This past school year, 25-26, school systems did not have to complete a formal self-assessment due to the transition from the self-assessment in Ascend to the SPD. Instead, school districts were instructed to review their previous data, their current data, their previous self-assessments, and their strategic support plans to identify areas of growth and need. This year, we will be officially transitioning our self-assessment to the SPD, and districts will be expected to complete a key practice self-assessment that will replace those former requirements. This will be made available to school districts in January of 2027, and school districts will have to choose one of the SPD levers out of 4 available options to complete their key practice self-assessment requirements within the SPD TIL application. Don't run to TIL and request your application access yet. You will get instructions to do that later. And again, that will be made available to you in January of 2027. Beginning with the school year 27-28, we will expand our available SPD self-assessment areas from the 4 that we're initially launching with to hopefully all 7 levers available in 27-28. During that school year, that is when the full diagnostic framework will be available to support continuous improvement in special education. So I mentioned a few times that there will be 4 levers that school systems can choose from to complete their self-assessment requirements. Those 4 levers that are planned to launch this year are lever 1, integrated systems, lever 3, identification and evaluation, lever 4, IEP development, and lever 5, special education service delivery. And so, because we are launching new self-assessment requirements this year, we are requiring school systems to be part of training so that they can get the information they need to complete their new self-assessment requirements. We are going to offer training throughout every ESE in the state of Texas this fall. We will have both in-person and virtual options between September of 2026 and January of 2027. We highly encourage participants to choose an in-person option at your nearest ESC. We think that training will be much richer when you are able to go through that in an in-person environment. But if the day that is closest to the ESC closest to you, if that day just does not work for you, there will be those virtual options available. During that training, every school system must have a representative which in most cases is going to be the special education director who will receive the details and request the SPD till access. They'll choose the lever in which they are going to do their self-assessment. They will complete the evaluation and finalize their key practices within that SPD till application. Linked within the TAA letter that went out on August 6th is the training flyer. So you can find that by searching for it, or it is linked on that TAA. It lists every date and location that we will be at this fall, as well as the virtual training options as backup if you are not able to attend an in-person training. Like I said, during the training, the school system representatives will receive details on requesting the SPD till application, choosing what lever to self-assess, doing their evaluation, and finalizing their key practice ratings within the application. There will also be a post-test required at the completion of the training. As far as the school system representative, that needs to be one person who has decision-making authority to complete that one-day training that we are offering, as well as those self-assessment requirements on behalf of their school system. In most cases, we know that that designee will likely be the special education leader or director for that school district. This individual has to be authorized to actively engage and make decisions regarding the required self-assessment. If you are a school system that participates in a shared service arrangement, we are still asking or expecting a system representative, so someone from your charter school or school district, to attend that training. Rather than the sole person who is representing the SSA for multiple school districts. The self-assessment is ultimately owned by that school system, and we think it's very important for someone with decision-making authority within that school system to attend alongside their SSA representative. The SSA Special Education Director can absolutely support and collaborate throughout the process, but again, the school system is really the one responsible for completing those self-assessment requirements. We do have our SPD collection posted on our Texas our Texas SPED support website. So if you go to our TSS website, you will be able to find that SPD collection, and I can show you really quick what that looks like. Just a quick note, this is the TAA that went out last week, so hopefully this looks familiar to you. If not, you can find that linked on the TAA website on TEA. And on our Texas SPED support website, you will see our collection. It includes the video that I shared with you today. If you want to share that with other folks or your agency, throughout your district, there's also some other great SPD resources that are on there, and we will continue adding to that collection as we launch the SPD this fall. We do have an inbox, so if you have questions, you can put them in the chat. Like I said, Cole is going to respond to questions that come in the Q&A feature. You also can jot down this email address. You might not have questions now, but as you're engaging with the SPD, attending training, or doing your self-assessment, questions might come up, and this is the inbox in which someone on our team will reach out to you and follow up with any questions that you have. Thank you for attending this afternoon. That's all that I have for me, and I'll turn it back over to you and our next presenter.
Thank you. Appreciate it. It's amazing information to see how this has come to fruition. Those of us who have seen SPD in its pilot stage and where it is now, it really is amazing, and it's going to be very supportive for district programs. So thank you. There was a question about sharing the slide deck. A lot of slide decks we're not sharing because we are recording these webinars and the recording is available. But if the decision is made where this deck is shared, it will be hyperlinked to the location, but really the only time that happens is if the deck is housed, for example, on Texas SPED support. So mostly what we're doing with individual decks is just hoping that people will rewatch the recording to get the information as opposed to the manual deck. So,
Yeah, and I'll just note that really this presentation, all it was a PowerPoint deck of the actual TAA. So any
yep,
information you need regarding the presentation today, you can find the exact same verbiage that was in the deck today on that TAA. And other SPD resources are on our TSS Texas Fed Support website as well.
absolutely. Perfect. Thank you. All right. And as questions still come in, we'll make sure to continue to answer them or maybe answer them as a follow-up because your emails are within the questions. So thank you for submitting questions. And there's funding questions happening, and I think Lindsay is on as a participant. So if you have a funding question, continue to ask them because Lindsay's trying to field them in the background, which is nice. So, all right, Emily, I'm going to turn it over to you. You're here to share some new resources with us.
All right, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Yes, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Emily Groomer. I'm the Early Childhood Special Education Coordinator at TEA. Really appreciate you spending some time with us this afternoon and also just allowing me a few minutes to highlight some of the new resources that are available through Texas Fed Support. You're going to notice a theme as I'm showing you these resources today. All of these resources focus on early childhood transition. So this is supporting students, supporting children who are transitioning from early childhood intervention to ECSE services when they hit their third birthday. So I just wanted to take a few minutes. I'm going to show you these resources. But before I do that, and before I share my screen, I want to let you know that each of these tools was developed to help support a new training that's going to be offered this fall. So we are launching the ECI to ECSE transition training. It's going to be offered at all 20 education service centers during the 26 and 27 school year. So a little bit about this training. The purpose of it is to bring our ECI and our LEA partners together, not only to hear what those transition requirements are, but also to give them a chance to strengthen some of their communication skills, give them a chance to do some of that cross-agency collaboration that we know is so important and that we know is so challenging to find times to do sometimes. So we're very excited to get this training and be able to share it all across Texas. The resources I'm going to show you today really serve as the foundation for that training, and they're going to provide participants with some practical tools that they can continue to use after that training is over. So in addition to what I'm going to show you today, please be on the lookout if this is something that's interesting to you. Please be on the lookout for some more information from your regional ESC starting this fall. So rather than show you slides, I'm going to take us directly to the Texas SPED Support website so that you can see exactly where these resources are located and how you can access them. So I will share my screen. Okay. All right, so hopefully you're seeing the right thing. So in just a moment, I will figure out if I'm able to drop a link in the chat that will take you to all of these resources that are all grouped together just like this so that you have them all in one space.
You
But
won't
for
be able to
now,
put it in the chat, so you might just want to navigate to
there
there.
you go. I am going to, yes, I'll definitely navigate to it and maybe I can share that afterwards. I didn't think through that part. So, okay, so our first resource here is the ECI to ECSE Transition Quick Guide. So I'll click into this. And so this guide was really designed to be that concise, user-friendly reference that staff can quickly go to access what they need and really give that overview of a transition process. So rather than providing multiple documents and having to click around through them, this guide is used to quickly locate that information and then follow those links to related resources that go more into detail. So we have everything from the purpose of early childhood transition. There's that nice overview that explains the difference between ECI and ECSE services, some best practices for our LEA staff, linking directly to the MOU, and then some other information about what do we do in case of late referrals. As you can see, lots of links throughout that can take whoever the user is that can take them to those more detailed documents. So this resource will be especially valuable for our Child Find staff, for any special education administrators, really anyone involved in coordinating those transition activities that needs that big picture of things without getting too far into the details. This is a great starting point for those of us who are starting to understand this process. Our second resource is the IDEA Part C to Part B flowchart. So this flowchart provides a visual representation of the transition process. So you can see there's a lot involved here. What this is showing is how special education timelines may vary based on certain things. So for instance, how long has the child been receiving those ECI services? Did the parent choose to opt out of an LEA notification? And then what happens if they opt back in? So this transition process, there's several different requirements. There's different timelines that our LEAs might have to follow. And then there's several different decision points along the way. So the goal of this tool is to help educators quickly understand how all those pieces fit together. And then the final resource that I will show you is the Part C to Part B transition responsibilities in Texas. This is our side-by-side document. So one of the questions that often comes up is who's responsible for what? So this resource outlines those key activities and it identifies the responsibilities of both ECI programs and our LEAs throughout the transition timeline. So it's going to lay out different steps within that transition process, everything from transition notification and then going through all the way to that initial evaluation and eligibility. It's going to show who is responsible for what at each point in that timeline. So this resource is valuable because it gives that shared reference point. It can be especially helpful when you are working with ECI staff or maybe addressing questions about what is required in these transition activities. I want to mention that all of the resources that I've shown you today, we worked in collaboration with our partners at HHSC who are over ECI in order to make sure that this information was correct and was relevant. And so this has been a joint effort. And so again, we're excited to kind of get all of these out into the world in fall when we launch that training. So all these resources, if you can tell, really complement each other. The quick guide gives us that accessible day-to-day implementation, give me the big picture view. The flowchart helps to visualize the process, and then the responsibilities helps to clarify roles. So I will make sure that you are able to link to all of these resources, encourage you to review them and share them out with any staff that are involved in transition activities. Also, consider participating in that ECI to ECSE transition training alongside your ECI partners when that's available in the fall. I think that that's all from me, and I appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Emily. And I know you have a friend, Mandy Young, who is trying to put stuff as a participant. So the participants may actually end up with that link that you're referencing. So she is putting it on the participant end. And then I also put it as an answered Q&A. So hopefully people might have access to that link easily.
Thank you.
Well, that is all our topics today. We thank you again for joining us. We thank you for continuing to send questions in through the Q&A and engaging in our webinars. I know a lot of funding questions have been coming in. Please know that we do have office hours on Thursday this week from 9 to 9:30 and then again from 4 to 4:30. The link is posted on the TAA letter that went out around SPED funding. You can also find it on the SPED Resource Central calendar if you've downloaded that calendar. If not, reach out and at the SPED funding email and we'll get that link to you. But please come and ask your questions for SPED funding during the office hours. So thank you, everyone. I'm going to stop recording, and that is it for today. Appreciate everyone.